Many of you might have heard about the quantum computer, right? Quantum computer is clearly a very much discussed topic, right? Something that is at the core of the discourse about the future of artificial intelligence, right? And this has not been stopped really by the coronavirus, although, you know, there are more important things to cover and address in the media. Be sure that, you know, works on quantum computing are definitely going on, right? So quantum computers, if they really become, you know, maintainable, right? So if they become stable, quantum computers are able to process information super efficiently, right? They're using qubits and quantum entanglement. They can really be very efficient in terms of, you know, running algorithms that solve various problems, and waiting for the solution will not take long, right? So in terms of efficiency, that's a very big promise. But some people say if they really are maintainable, they will also become something very relevant in terms of our ecological outlook and sustainability, because in the future, we will need computers that can solve problems quickly, right? There are some problems that we still can't solve, like the traveling salesman, for instance. And some people claim maybe that's too much, that some, at least, of these hard algorithmic problems will be successfully addressed by quantum computer, but also perhaps more efficiently, because it will not take this long to train them, and the whole process will be much quicker, right? So technology itself will not be something that is so ecologically kind of ineffective and costly. And that's also an important thing, right? So this quantum computer is definitely something that we should be looking into. Last year, Google has announced that it has its quantum supremacy, so it's able to do it. Obviously, IBM is one of the pioneers, and so is Microsoft and some other companies. So definitely kind of, well, something to look into as far as trends in AI and new technologies generally are concerned. Yet another thing that I want to kind of mention that is very, very relevant is, well, somewhat controversial field of bridging artificial intelligence with biology. Now, I know that we are in the COVID/post-COVID situation. So talking about, you know, various new forms of, you know, life that is very minimal, that is hard to detect, and that may not be fully controllable is now a difficult topic. But I want to raise your kind of attention and kind of really point to this particular invention that happened just before the coronavirus crisis, right? And that's xenobots. So xenobots are, as you can see here on these pictures, well, we wouldn't call them organism. I guess that's not a proper name, because they don't have metabolism, they don't have the nervous system. These are just stem cells of skin and heart of an African frog, but they're comprised into given forms here by artificial intelligence, which means they're fully programmed proto or semi-organisms, or kind of a proto form of life that is designed by artificial intelligence here, by a big matrix. This looks like a field that was for a long time described in, you know, in various books that were related to artificial intelligence, which was artificial life, right? So you can say that some sort of very early forms of artificial life were created, and obviously they vanished really quickly and they did not reproduce. And maybe that's good, because if they could, I guess some new ethical and various other challenges would follow. But nonetheless, it's good to know that this field of, you know, combination of synthetic biology and machine learning, deep learning, is definitely on the rise. It may be somewhere behind, but it's on the rise, and it's a very important field, and who knows, maybe a decisive field in AI in the future. So that's something I would also like to raise. And now, since we're talking about COVID and what currently happens, it's quite obvious to me that in terms of artificial intelligence developments, the proper question to ask right now is what can AI do, not necessarily for business, for cost optimization or for looking for new revenue streams, better segmentation of consumers, whatnot, but what can AI do for people? For citizens, global citizens. And I think coronavirus has really impacted many people's understanding of the role of AI, especially those who are in the field, right? I don't know if you were tracking the Kaggle, which is a data scientific platform, a very famous one, challenge, COVID challenge, where many people worked voluntarily to kind of understand the spread of pandemics, make some predictions and so on and so forth when the coronavirus started. But it was really quite impressive, right? And we're talking these days quite a lot about social responsibility of artificial intelligence, right? And there were some projects before, but I don't think they were that famous. And they were projects related to, let's say, battling or somehow at least tracking the climate change. And indeed, artificial intelligence can be very helpful here. On the other hand, it's obviously costly, right? So in terms of energy consumption. So there is this very big dilemma here. Some people are saying you're not going to solve problems related to climate change with the use of technology that kind of co-creates those problems. But on the other hand, we have very good techniques to kind of really understand what's going on and somehow prepare for a change, to make predictions. And for instance, in agriculture of the future, I'm quite sure AI could and should be heavily used to kind of understand how to really operate in a way that is sustainable and efficient at the same time when the climate is changing so dramatically and there are so many unexpected and tough phenomena out there, right? So that was one thing. And I myself, when I was working at the Center for Collective Intelligence at MIT, at a desk nearby, there was a very big group kind of scholars always sitting together, and they formed the Climate Collab, right, which is a great initiative to kind of use technologies for the greater good. And more recently, now coming back to COVID, I think what needs to be said is that we have lots and lots of, different ideas about how to use artificial intelligence for future potential pandemics, right? And indeed, for instance, a system called Blue Dot, which is a Canadian first startup now, more mature company that is serving Canadian government, US government and some private companies as well, is very famous for detecting the Zika pandemic spread, right? It's been used for Ebola spread, and it was used, in fact, well, at least by this company for the Canadian government and to some extent for the US government to track what was happening in Wuhan. And indeed, the system was able to detect some weak signals from the environment, usually blogosphere, news outlets or media, more important, like verified media outlets, but also, well, they're saying that they're not using social media so much, but also textual data from the social media, I would assume, to gather information about the fact that there's probably something happening in Wuhan, right? Because that's how it collects information. It's usually textual data, unstructured and structured textual data from many different sources, and the system operates in 65 languages and dialects, right? And it was able to say, okay, there's something that perhaps you should pay attention to. And obviously not all weak signals translate into something relevant, but it's good to have such tools. And I think many people, many government officials perhaps have asked themselves, why don't we have something like that to really understand what's going on and try to prepare better, right? So that's definitely a change. There will be major investment in this intersection of public health and new technologies and artificial intelligence and machine learning in this context, but also in the context of, as I said before, finding vaccination, fighting new therapies for this particular pandemics. It's possible next waves, but also other pandemics that could follow or reemerge at some point, right? So that's definitely a very important change, right? Social responsibility, but also focus on health. that's something that is definitely happening.